all the dogs in at that home, Brent?
I blowed it a while ago, and Richard and Judy's in here they're both about to flip their chairs on. I blowed it before I left the house, and them dogs cut to shine. Anyways, so my name's Brent Smith. I was raised up down in Jones Chapel. Used to coon hunt with Raziel Jolly. He's an old fox hunter. I've had dogs all my life. I got interested in dogs, pedigrees, primarily through genealogy, and that's how dog pedigrees and genealogy sort of just meshed for me. I asked my grandma when I was a kid where we come from, and that interested me. But then my stepdad, when I was 10 years old, got a cur dog, and they had some papers, and I thought it was pretty cool, because it had a pedigree chart. So, squirrel hunted some off and on, got into coon hunting. Raziel Jolly was my neighbor. He used to be a fox hunter years ago. And I always seen that sign down here at the bridge, Tennessee Lead. Didn't know what it was, but I started researching Walker coonhounds. It said, the foundation sire of all Walkers, Triggs, and Goodmans is this dog right here. So, there used to be a trace, is an old Indian path, and then it turned into a stock road that cut down through Kentucky, come across down here close to Lilydale. It crossed the river where the rivers converged, went up Ashburn's Creek, and headed up into Herd Ridge right there. Right now, still today, you can still see the part of the old road bed up through there in the East Fork prong of the Ashburn Creek. If you was traveling south, it was called the Rock Island Road. If you was traveling north, it's the Kentucky Road. Of course, this was Overton County during that time. Back during 1852 is where we're at. There was a tavern down there called Becky's Tavern. That's one of the oldest establishments in Overton County. Overton County was established in 1806, and she had a 1805, 1806. But a girl named Becky Watson had a tavern there, and all the stock drivers would stop there, and she could sell illicit spirits without taxation in Overton County. There's been songs written about it, but there was a feller from up in Madison County, Kentucky, named Tom Harris. He had family down around Franklin, Tennessee, and North Alabama. He had done a stock driving trip somewhere down in there and was heading back up, and a dog come across and he stole him. But, let's see. Before we get there, there's a feller named Bob Lee Maddox. He owned a hardware store in Cookeville, Tennessee back years ago. He died in 1985. Bob Lee Maddox was a huge fox hunter. He loved foxhounds more than anybody in the world, probably. He wrote an article for the Hunter's Horn back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. This one right here is a 1974 edition. It's got one of his old articles in it I brought with me tonight. Bob Lee Maddox got to wondering about the old dogs and pedigrees and such. So he would drive up to Madison County and Guerin County, Kentucky, and a fellow named Woods Walker was still living then. So yeah, picture this. He would drive all the way from Cookeville, Tennessee, with no interstate highways, on his own dime, and drive all the way up there. That's a good journey today up the interstate. But Bob Lee would make multiple trips up there to interview Woods Walker and take down the history of the Walker Hound. He wrote a book. He wrote two books. He wrote one called The History of the Walker Hound, and another little pamphlet called Hilltopping. Because that's what they called their style of hunting. They'd go down on the ridge, build them up a big fire, and sit around and listen to the dogs run. Call them in. He took a sheepskin with him and laid on it of a night when he wasn't listening to them. But Bob Lee, we owe a huge thank you to him, because he was instrumental in gathering up all this intel on Tennessee Lead and the history of the Walker dog. And so I've done some research on this. I'm not even certain. I can't find nothing to prove that there was ever red fox native to the entire country. I've looked it up. I can't figure it out. There was no red fox in this territory, and none up in Kentucky in 1850s. No red fox. There was just grays. And a lot of them old fox hunters would import red foxes from England and places and turn them loose. My suspicion is that's how they got started here, because a lot of this country down in Jackson County, up at Clark Range, a lot of that was big open prairie land. There was buffaloes here and elk and stuff that kept all that. This wasn't all just timber through here like a lot of people believe. The Indians kept it burned off. It was a lot of savanna type stuff, but there's big prairies. One of the first Revolutionary War settlers come in down at Allgood. He called it when he crested the mountain out of Monterey. He said it was to look like a white plains down through there, that old buffalo grass growing. And that's what still White Plains Golf Course is on his old farm. So red foxes like open country. Gray foxes live in the mountains up in the woods. Reds like more open farmland. So I don't believe they was here. I believe that the red foxes come into this country was imported. That's my theory. But, so them fellers up in Kentucky had gray foxhounds. Well, until Tom Harris was traveling down the Kentucky road heading back home, and this dog right here, this black and tan dog, was in a deer race, and he run up and stole him. Just took him. Brought him on with him. Well, he knew this man right here. This boy here was a man named, his real first name was General George Washington Maupin. And he was the son of a fellow named Tough Daniel Maupin that was a Revolutionary War veteran out of Virginia. They moved up into Madison, Kentucky. Big fox hunters, and he had some sons that loved to hunt. But General George, when he come back, somehow got up with Tom Harris in 1852, November 20th was the date that Maupin said the first time he ever laid eyes on lead. He bought him off of him. Of course, so he was just a stock trader, just getting, if he could get a few silver dollars, he was happy. So they got to running him. Well, it wasn't until 1855 that an unknown track was in the snow where nobody's dogs could catch it. They'd run it, nothing could catch this thing. It was a red fox. The first dog the first red fox any of them fellers had ever seen was one time old Lead put him to ground. And they all went and they dug him out and let him kill him. And so after that, that created a huge sensation for all them fox hunters. They thought, boy, we got to have some of this. So they bred every jip they had to him. Everybody did. This man right here was a rich banker. His name was Jason Walker. Now, Lead was still running in 1863, so I'm not sure when this picture was made. But we know he was stolen in 1852, and he was still running in 1863. That's 11 years, so he might have been fairly young when he got stolen. Anyway, everybody wanted to breed to Lead, and everybody's dogs had some in him. George Washington Maupin had some boys, and he wanted some more of that stock. So he sent them back down to this country. And so yeah, sent a couple of his sons back down here to the Wolf. And Bob Lee Maddox said the dogs, he done extensive research on land deeds, the old road deeds, all that stuff. He done all kinds of research trying to figure out who possibly owned this dog. Well, he come down to three guys, John Jolly, or Mark Jolly, or a fellow named Andrew Kraft. He was certain that it was one of them three that this dog come from. They still had, some of their descendants still had some colored up dogs like that on up closer to the turn of the century. And they said if it had waited a short time, he could have gotten Andrew Kraft's old Jen Kraft, or John Jolly's old Fan Jolly, or Bud Taylor's old Black Rowdy, and the trip would have paid off. Unfortunately, they took some dogs back with them, and none of them was at the caliber old Lead was. But Maupin didn't keep a lot of good records for his dogs. But Jason Walker, there was a whole bunch of them Walkers. I've got another picture here. That's the Walkers there, some of them. So that's the Walker family. That's all fox hunters up in Kentucky. I can't keep up with all of them, but there was one fellow named Ed Walker that done a good job of keeping records for us today. Back then, that we still have, and he bought. So, Wash Maupin had a nephew named Neil Gooch that owned a dog that was directly off a Lead named Spotted Top. Ed Walker never sold any hounds, but bought every good one that he ever heard about. So he bought old Spotted Top and used him as a foundation sire for him. Of course, the Walkers called them the Maupin hounds, the Maupin strain. And Ed Walker, some of their descendants moved out to Texas, and when they moved out there, they asked them what they was. They told them it was Walker hounds. So still to this day, we still have the Walker hounds. This is the foundation sire, according to everything you read. This dog right here is the foundation sire to all the Walkers There'll be foxhounds and coonhounds both, because the coonhounds in the 50s or 40s branched off into tree and coonhounds. They kept registering the running dogs with the chase and the horn. This is a foxhound registration. This magazine is. It's got, every month they put in the registrations of everybody that registers or the litter of pups or dogs. But the walkers continued on up until Woods Walker. And of course, still to this day, right now, there's still a lot of walker foxhounds all over everywhere. They have a national trig hunt, which Lee was a foundation sire to them too, up in Liberty, Kentucky every year. And I try to go to it. It's enjoyable. But we'll never know for sure, but I was hoping somebody here tonight might have been kin to Mark or John Jolly or Bud Taylor or Andrew Kraft. I've tried to do some research on them. I can't find nothing out about them. Somehow Bob Lee Maddox did back in the 30s and 40s. I don't know what he was using, but I don't have nothing. But that's all I've got. Thank you.
John Jolly and who?
Mark Jolly